Hello, welcome back. As you can see on the title card, this is the first of the 2015 Reading Challenge vlogs, and it's for the book with one word title, which is Dust by Arthur G. Slade, and it's of course Dust because of Little Britain and Marjorie Dawes. We have a bit of an obsession with her in this house, to the extent that when Tangled was out, me and my daughter had a bit of a Tangled obsession because it's awesome, way better than Frozen, just saying. We always had to say when Mother Gothel fell out of the tower at the end and dissipated to dust, "Dust? Anybody? No? Dust?" Kind of a thing. Yeah. Anyway, on to the book itself. Dust is a YA, a young adult. It is a sci-fi fantasy with a little dash of mystery in it. I don't often read YAs, but I was excited to read this one. I'm actually excited to read more YAs because they're, I think, one of the very few genres out there at the moment that are really pushing the genre boundaries. You know, a lot of cross-genre, a lot of diversity. It's very exciting out there in young adults at the moment. So yes, super excited to read this, and it had been hanging around on my Kindle for months, literally. I bought it, well, I obtained it from Amazon during one of those free drives that they do, and I'll insert a picture here. The cover is just glorious, so pretty, and butterflies are extremely pertinent to the storyline. I just love when the cover is that pertinent to the story. It's just like, oh. Anyway, brief outline of the story will now follow, hopefully not too waffly. I am truly awful at condensing stories without waffle, so I apologise for any waffling that may now occur. Dust is set in Depression-era Saskatchewan, in a little town called Horseshoe that is suffering quite the most extraordinary and prolonged drought. Very important again. It starts with the disappearance of a child. His name is Matthew Steelgate, and we follow his family, specifically his brother Robert, through the story. And Robert is basically on a mission to rescue Matthew, or to find him, because nobody else remembers that Matthew even existed eventually. But other events happen before that, starting with the arrival of a new person in town. His name is Abram Harsick, and he's a little bit of a snake oil merchant with a twist. He puts on a show at the local theatre with this amazing Egyptian mirror, and everyone sees these wonderful images of things that they want, the things they most desire. And following on from that, he promises them that he can bring rain back to their area. And he uses basically the banker in the town, who of course is a big sleaze quite naturally. He uses him to help them decide to join him in this rainmaking scheme by giving them a year off their rent for their farms if they will sign up to build this rainmaking machine for Abram. So of course everybody signs up and everything's fine, but strange little things are beginning to happen, like Robert's parents are seeming to forget that Matthew has gone missing. They think he's just staying with family elsewhere, and Robert's like, wait, hold on, that's not what's going on here. Matthew's gone, he's missing. So then more children start to go missing, and no one seems to remember them. No one seems to mind. Robert's at school and there are empty desks and people are just not paying any attention to them, and he's like, what's happened to so-and-so? And everyone's like, what? So it's getting a little bit nerve-wracking for Robert. And here come the butterflies. Abram Harsick has these incredible butterflies. He visits Robert's school with these butterflies, and he shows them to the children. One butterfly in particular, a very special butterfly, again I'll put a picture here. That is Queen Alexandra's birdwing, one of the largest butterflies in the world. And this is a butterfly that is not what it seems. After Abram has visited them at school with these butterflies, Queen Alexandra's birdwing appears to Robert in his dreams. And after this dream with the butterfly, he forgets about Matthew himself. When he remembers, not only is he devastated that he's forgotten about his brother, but also he's now absolutely convinced that Abram is the reason behind the children's disappearance and that he needs to find out what's going on. Now, he tries to get the help of his Uncle Alden. His Uncle Alden's an important figure in his life. He's introduced Robert to science fiction. Alden is literally the only man in town who has not joined up to this scheme. But Alden's not fully equipped to believe what Robert is saying about Abram's connection to the children missing. He's just like, nah, he's a con man. Of course he's a con man. Just don't, I don't trust him. That's that. And Robert has this encounter with Abram, and this is where we find out why Robert is so special. He is on the cusp of adulthood. He's in that area where you see the wonder in everything, but he's also losing it. And it's a special place. He can't be so easily fooled by Abram's tricks and the dreams he's using to control everyone else. And now, quite naturally, because he's the only person who sees through it and he can't get the help of his Uncle Alden, it's going to come down to Robert. I'm not going to give it all away because I hate those reviews that even if a book's been out for a while, they just give it all away. But I will say this, Abram, we find out in his little encounter with Robert, is a man who has never dreamt and has never had a childhood. So what would this man who's never had a dream and never been a child want with children? That's all I'm going to say on that. I'm not going to say anything about what the rain machine is either, but I really thoroughly enjoyed that. It's one of the more science fictional aspects of the book. In fact, it's the science fictional aspect of the book, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very unusual and unexpected direction. The only thing I didn't really like about the book, two things. The first was just a reader problem. Yeah, reader problems. Just me being stupid. See, when Queen Alexandra's Birdwing visits Robert in his dream and he forgets all about Matthew, I was just like, no, he doesn't do that. That's not convincing. But thinking about it later, as in applying the brain leaps to the logic of the story, kitty, wrong side, nerd. Kitty's being annoying today. Anyway, applying logic to the story itself, yeah, of course, it's perfectly logical that he would forget. It's just a device to help you understand that Robert is still vulnerable to these controls if he is pushed hard enough. The point is that Abram is a little bit threatened by Robert and is trying very hard to remove that threat from the equation. So that sequence where he dreams, got another kitty, and again mirrored, that sequence where he dreams is extremely important to the actual story itself. The second thing I have still got a problem with, and that is the final showdown between Robert and Abram. It was almost in a completely different style to the rest of the book. The thing about this book is, the thing about Dust, is that it is written in the most gloriously descriptive language. It is rich and lyrical and beautiful, and it's not done in a way that interferes with the story. It's really well handled, envy making, and it's kept up all the way through, from the really strong beginning, very powerful beginning, to, as the story is driven by character, there's all this glorious imagery used throughout. And then in this pivotal scene where the protagonist and the antagonist finally sort of have their big showdown, the description disappears. The lyricism disappears. I'm a bit of a pedant when it comes to lyricism in books. If you're going to be lyrical, stay lyrical, or I'm going to be judging you from a distance, so I'm that bad. Oops. But yeah, it kind of threw me out of the story, and I was a little bit but it didn't massively detract. The book is still incredible. I would still highly recommend it. Totally 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really, really excellent. It pulled me in and it kept me there, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's Dust. The second book that I'm going to be doing in this little 2015 reading challenge is The Peripheral by William Gibson, and that is for a book set in the future. And of course it's completely appropriate for The Peripheral because it's actually set in 2 futures. Oh yes. and I have many, many, many feels about the Peripheral. I finished it at the weekend, and oh, the feels, the thoughts, the love for this book. I love William Gibson anyway, but yeah, you can expect many, many enthusings. The trouble with the Peripheral is, of course, that it's a book that I would ordinarily read. I would like cross deserts and mountain ranges to read this book. So it's kind of difficult to remain in that objective distance. See, this time I'm pointing over the wrong shoulder. More kitties. That's kitty number 3. See? They're just all over the place today. They're just like, I'm just going to wreck you up all over the place. This is probably like the 4th time I filmed this, because cats have been going and knocking stuff over and been just basically walking out in front of me, and I've had a tail cross my face like this. So disruptive. So annoying. Ugh. So there we go. I hope I haven't been too waffly. Probably have been. Apologise for that if so. And I hope you'll return next week for me to be waffly about the Peripheral. Yeah.